Hello everyone, my name is Ankit Jain. I welcome you all to my channel Take Journey with Ankit. So from today I will be starting another series which is based on the scenario based interview question. Before that I have already put the individual playlist how you can get how you can get yourself prepared on the Apex LWC integrations as well as on the flows. In case you guys didn't got a chance to go over that playlist, I will put the link in the video description. Do check that out. So today we will be starting the scenario based questions where we'll be discussing the different scenario based questions from the admin, Apex, LWC as well as on the integration. So this is the part one of it. Again, in case you guys want to know more, do subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you will be notified for the upcoming parts as well. So let's get started. So in case you guys want to connect with me, you can definitely join the YouTube channel. You can also connect with me on the LinkedIn as well. And you can also join the Telegram channel where we discuss all the queries that you do encounter in your Salesforce journey. So the first question that we'll be discussing here is you are working on a Salesforce integration project where you need to export the record IDs from the Salesforce and then use it into some external system. But the catch here is the external system do requires the ID which is in the case insensitive form. They don't want the case sensitive IDs. They do want the case insensitive ID and how you can generate those case insensitive ID. Again, make sure that whenever you are doing these integrations, you have to share the case insensitive ID here. That integration can be either you are downloading it in the form of CSV or you are making some API calls. The ask here is to share it in the form of case insensitive. How you can do that? And you have to make sure that you are achieving this by using the admin approach. Again, in case you guys already know the answer for this, do pause the video. Let me know the answer in the comment section. In case not, please continue watching this video till end. So the answer for this here is in Salesforce, the 15-digit record ID is case insensitive ID and the 18-digit record ID is case insensitive. So in Salesforce, we can have the record ID coming up in two form. One is the 15-digit and second one is the 18-digit. 15-digit record ID, it is always case sensitive. 18-digit record ID, it is always case insensitive. Whenever we have to share the record in the form of case insensitive, and if you do have the 15 digit record ID, you will be using the out of the box function, that is the case feed ID function. By using this formula, you can convert your 15 digit ID to 18 digit ID. Similarly, in case you already have the 18 digit ID with you and you have to get that converted into the 15 digit, you will be doing it by removing the last three characters. This action will naturally contract the length of the ID from 18 characters to 15 characters. So whenever you have to do this conversion without writing any Apex or any automation tool, you can simply use this formula field and get that converted. Next question. Your company wants to ensure that all the new leads are assigned to the appropriate sales representative based on their location. So again, the business is looking for an automation here where they want that based on the location of the sales representatives, the leads should be automatically assigned to them. Again, how you can achieve it out of the box without writing down any logic? The answer to this here is by using the assignment rule. Out of the box, Salesforce do provide assignment rule functionality on the lead object. So you can use that functionality and do that conversion. You can use that functionality and do that conversion. So what you have to do here is you will be creating the assignment rules on the lead object where you will be adding the multiple rule entries based on the location you will be assigning the records to the different sales representative. Again, assignment rules also give you the flexibility to set up the email notification as well so that when the new lead has been assigned to the sales representatives, they will be informed over the email. Next question. You have an object, let's call it as an object A that contains a pick list field. And that object have the four different and that pick list field have the four different values. One is the APAC, second is the EMEA, third is the Latin America, and fourth one is the North America. Now, the requirement from the business here is user A should only see the two values APAC as well as EMEA, and the user B only see the two values that is the Latin America as well as the North America. How you can achieve that? So one field by default it does have the four values, but the two users should see the two different values. How you can make sure that the user A and the user B only see the respective values? Again, if you know the answer, do pause the video and let me know the answer for this in the comment section. In case not, let's check out the answer for this. You can achieve this by using the concept of record type. So what you can do in this scenario, you can create the two record types. One is a record type A and the second one is the record type B. In particular record, in each record type, populate the different values. For example, the record type A, I have populated the APAC and the EMEA, and the record type B, I have populated the Latin America as well as the North America. After that, what we will do, we will assign this record type to the specific user. So when the user A will logged in now, user A will see the values which are available on the record type A. Similarly, when the user B will logged in, user B will see the values which are tagged on the record type B. So whenever you have to display the values conditionally or based on any specific criteria, you can always think about the record types here. Okay, so by using this approach, you can create the two record types and meet the business requirement. Again, I have seen many times the different question has been asked based on the record types. So make sure that you guys are all know the record types in very detail, because many businesses do use the record types very heavily in their enterprise applications. Now the next question, I have two objects, object A and the object B, which are related to a master detail relationship. So there are two objects now, object A and the object B, and the relation between the two objects here is the master detail relation, where the object A is the parent and the object B is the child. Now each parent object, uh, the requirement here is each parent object should only have one related child record. In case the user tries to create more than one child record, then we have to give an error message to the user stating that they cannot insert more than one child record under the parent. How you can achieve this with the admin approach without writing a single line of a code? To do that, what you have to do here is you have to take the help of the roll-up summary and the validation rules. Let's try to understand how. So what you will do, as in this tip, they put in the requirement object A and the object B, they are in the master detail relationship. So definitely we can create the roll-up summary field here, and we will be using the count function to count the number of child records related to it. So we'll be creating the roll-up summary field on the parent object. In our scenario, this is object A, and we will be using the count function to count the number of child record. Once that has been done, then we will be creating the validation rule on the object A. What this validation rule will do, this validation rule will check the count value. If the count value is increasing greater than 1, then we can give an error message to the user stating that they cannot insert more than one child under the parent. So by combination of the roll-up summary and the validation rule, we can meet this requirement. Again, whenever you get any such type of a question, do always try to think out of the box. I have seen many times people directly jump on the flows or on the apex. Yes, that is correct. But out of the box, Salesforce do recommend that without even writing down the flows, make sure that you do have any features with the help of which you can achieve it without writing any automation tool. So your thought process on this type of question is very much needed. Now the next question. A user is assigned a profile that grants the full permission on a parent object, but no permissions on the related child object. So there are there is one profile, okay, let's say PRO profile, and there are two objects. One is the parent object and one is the child object. Try to understand this scenario because this is very much frequently asked question. Okay, so you do have the parent object and you do have the child object. On the parent object, user will have all the different permissions: see, create, read, edit, delete. User do have all the permissions on the parent object. However, on the child object, user does not have any permissions. Okay, so this is the scenario. Now what additional thing has been done, there's a trigger written on the parent object. So parent object also have one trigger, but what this trigger will do, this trigger will perform the DML operations on the child record. What this trigger will do, This trigger will perform the DML operations on the child record. But the key point to note here is there is no CRUD permissions available on the child object to the user. What will happen now? Since there are lack of permissions on the child object, whether your trigger will throw any exception or your DML operations will be successful. What is your thought process behind this? If you know the answer, do let me know in the comment section, because this is one of the frequently asked question also in the interviews. Again, in this scenario, the DML operations will be successful. Although the user does not have any permissions, then also the DML operations will be successful here. Now, why this is happening? This is happening because by default, triggers always runs in the system mode, which means that they bypass all the profiles and the permission checks on the user who initiated the action. As they are running under the system mode, they will bypass everything. What is system mode? I have already explained in very detail in my Apex interview preparation series. So do check that out in case you are hearing it for the first time. Okay. So as it is running under the system mode, we can buy it will automatically bypass all the profiles and the permissions check. As all these checks has been bypassed, your DML operations here will be successful, although the user does not have any CRUD permissions. I hope this will make sense to you. Now, moving toward the next question. What happens if we are putting the sharing keyword now? Previously, there was no sharing keyword. Okay, we can understand that it is referring in the system mode and the DML operation is good. Now in the continuation of the next previous question, now what happen if we are using the sharing keyword at the Apex class? Now this time again, even the trigger will execute whether the DML operation will be successful or the DML operation will fail, or it will throw any exception. What is your thought process on this? Even though we are using the sharing keyword, right, still my DML operations will be successful. Although the user does not have any create permissions and I am using the sharing keyword, still the DML operations will be successful. How this is happening? This is happening because sharing keyword in an Apex class or the trigger handler will only validate the sharing rules and the permissions of the current user. It will not check anything related to the object level security. Whether the user have the create, edit, delete permissions, these permissions are coming up from the object level security. In Salesforce, we define the object level security with the help of profiles or the permission set. But as we are putting the sharing rules with sharing keyword, and with sharing keyword only consider the sharing rules, which is the part of record level security, your object level security will not come into the picture, and that's the reason my trigger will not fail and the DML operations will be successful. You can also expect a follow-up question on this. The follow-up question should be something like this. What if I want to make sure that my trigger is failing in case the user does not have any appropriate access? How you can achieve that? Or you can say that how you can implement the object level security inside the Salesforce. To do that, what we have to do here is there are different ways to do it. You can go with the traditional approach where we will be using the dynamic apex and the functions like is creatable, is accessible, is updatable, and all those stuff. Or you can also use the latest approach provided by the Salesforce where you can make sure that you are using the user mode keyword. By using the user mode keyword, you can make sure that you are asking the Apex class to execute it under the user context. And as the user does not have any appropriate access, this time the exception will occur and the DML operations will not be successful. So whenever you are answering this kind of a question, try to go as much detail as you can so that the interviewer will get the confidence that your concepts are very much clear on this part. Next question. Suppose I am processing 400 records using the DML statement in a batch, the default batch size. I hope you guys know what the default batch size. Do let me know in the comment section. So there are 400 records on which the user is performing the operations in the batch apex using the DML statement. So there are multiple keywords here: 400 records, DML statement, as well as the batch apex, and the batch size here is the default batch size. If one of the records in the Second batch chunk throws an exception. So there are multiple chunks which are submitted. Let's say C1 is this is the my one chunk, and C2 it is my another chunk. What they are saying here is one of the chunk is having the bad record, and so that this chunk is completely failed. Okay. Now, will both the chunks will be processed successfully? So what will happen in the case of batch apex? Whether both the chunks will process and the total number of records will be committed into the database is going to be the 400, or the total number of records committed to the database is going to be the 399, or the total number of records committed to the database it's going to be the 0 because you got an exception, or the total number of records committed to the database it's going to be the 200. What should be the correct answer? If you know the answer, do let me know in the comment section and also put the reasoning behind it. So what will be the outcome of this scenario? Let's go and check this out. In batch apex, as I said, the default batch size is 200. So the two chunks have submitted with a size of 200. So this one is 200 and this one is also 200. Okay, the two chunks are submitted because in total we do have the 400 size of record. Each chunk is processing independently. If an exception occurs in one of the record within a chunk, the entire chunk where the exception is occurred is rollback. The entire chunk where the exception is occurred, it is going to be the rollback. So this chunk is causing an exception, and error is occurred in this chunk. So this chunk will be completely rolled back. This means that none of the records in that chunk will be processed. Only the records which are only the chunk which is having all the successful records will be processed. That means in our scenario, the 200 records will be processed successfully because this chunk is good. The second chunk of 200 records, which is encountering an exception, will be rolled back, meaning that none of the records in that chunk will be processed. Meaning that none of the chunk in that will be processed. So by using this question, interviewer is examining all your batch apex concepts. Interviewer is making sure that you are not only comfortable syntactically but also the logically how the batch apex work. So if you answer this correctly with the proper explanation, that means your batch apex concepts are well and good. Next question: how can we bypass the validation rules and automations while performing the bulk DML operation? This is one of the common requirements for most of the enterprises whenever they are performing some bulk operations or they are doing some data migrations. They want to make sure that they are bypassing the validation rules and the automations as well. For example, if an object has the multiple validation rules and various automations are configured, and you need to perform the data loading or run a batch class daily that performs the DML operations on those records. How can you ensure that these validations and automations are bypassed or avoiding during that process? Or avoiding during that process. Again, there are different people generally go for the different approach while answering this question. I'll be choosing one of the approach. It's not mean that this is the only approach. I am using here choosing the approach of the custom settings. You can also go for the custom metadata as well. It's completely up to you what kind of approach that you want to go for. So in my approach, I am putting it, I want to go for the hierarchical based custom setting. Okay, so I'll be creating a new custom setting here. Assume that the name of my custom setting here is bypass settings. And in my bypass setting, I have one field with the name of bypass validation of type checkbox. After creating the custom settings, I will be managing the records at the org level, profile level, or also at the user level as well. So I'll be managing the records at three level after creating the hierarchical custom settings, that is the org level, profile level, as well as the user level. Once my custom setting part has been done, okay, then I can go and write down the validation rule, or you can say modify the validation rule, which will check the value available for the bypass setting. If the user is configured in this one, or the user profile is coming up here, or the value is set at the value is set for the bypass validation rule at the org level, then that particular validation rule will be bypassed. Okay, so this hierarchical custom settings will give you the flexibility as well. In case you want, it should be skipped for the specific user. In case you want, it should be skipped for the specific profile, or in case you want to skip for all the users in the org. That kind of a flexibility that you are getting in the hierarchical custom settings. I have implemented this approach in one of my project in the past, and it was working very well whenever we have to bypass any particular validation rule or the automations whenever you are performing the DML operation. Here I have given an example of the validation rule. Same checks you can perform in the flow as well, where you can write down the decision element. Same checks you can also perform in the any Apex classes or the batch Apex as well. Now, there are few questions that I want you guys to attempt and let me know the answer for this in the comment section. So there's a profile assigned to a user and an object. Let's say the object here is object A. On this profile, there are no permissions has been granted for the object A. Again, on this profile, there are no permissions like the create, edit, update, or the delete permissions. There are no permissions assigned. This profile is attached to one user, let's say user A. However, it has been observed that this user is still able to create the records for this object. How this can be possible? At the profile level, there are no permissions. Okay, still the user can perform these operations on the record. Can you help me to answer how this can be achieved? One more question for you guys to try it out. I want to delete a 30,000 customer records, but do not want anyone else to recover them. What can I do? Because whenever I go and delete those 30,000 customer records, my admins can go and recover them from the recycle bin. I don't want that. I don't want anyone should go and recover any of the records that I am deleting. How I can make sure that those records cannot be recovered? What all the different ways to do it? Do let me know in the comment section for answer of both of these questions. One more request to you folks is, in case you folks have come across such type of scenario based questions in your interviews as well, do let me know in the comment section so that I will try to cover them in the upcoming parts as well. I hope you folks like this series. Do let me know your thought process, how whether this scenario based question is going to be helpful for you or not, so that it will encourage me to create such more videos in the future as well. Again, thank you folks. Now, I wish you best of luck for your interview preparation. Have a good time.